I think Facebook it's a really illustrative case that can teach us a lot about the limits of market definition or how tricky it can be. And so in the FTC's case, they defined it as personal social networking services, which is a pretty narrow definition that once you include Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, you can show that you can allege that they've monopolized that market and they've illegally maintained that monopoly through those acquisitions and some other behavior. Then you can think about, how does TikTok fit into this market definition, or is it inside or outside that market definition? Because TikTok is it's the fastest platform ever to reach 1 billion users worldwide. Obviously, a lot of people, especially the younger demographics, use this app hours per day. It's extremely popular, but under a market definition of personal social networking services, it would be excluded because when you join TikTok for the first time, you don't have a social graph. You're not connected to people you know in real life. It's closer to YouTube in the sense that it's just like an algorithmic feed automatically starts showing you short video clips of entertaining content. And so is this a competitor to Facebook? And I think the answer is it's not yes or no. It's a little bit of both. It's monopolistic competition. It's differentiation among competitors. Of course, it would be kind of silly to think that startup companies are just going to try to replicate Facebook and compete directly head on. They want to solve a new consumer pain point in a little better way, and they're competing for a finite amount of user time and attention. And so if you think of these as all social media apps as like kind of time-killing apps, every hour that someone's using TikTok to watch a video is an hour less they have to watch a video on Facebook, even if their friend shared it, right? And so there are unique things that Facebook can do, but at the end of the day, they're competing for this like idle time that people are using on their smartphones. And so I think a much broader definition makes sense in the case of Facebook.
Can I just add maybe a concrete example building on Commissioner Wilson's of the potential outcome determinancy of market definition. So if you took Chloe Zhao's like historic Oscars from Sunday night and you took them to a scrap metal place and you said, how much are these worth? You would get a really different price than, if you took them to a memorabilia organization, or if 100 years, you took them on Antique Roadshow. So I think that it's the same product, but looking at how the lens in which you look at the business can really make a big difference on the outcome of the antitrust suit. And I think that's why there's a lot of fighting over market definition early on. And it's why when a complaint is brought, the organizations are essentially trying to design the market definition that is most favorable to them, even if it doesn't necessarily line up with how the average consumer might see the market in which they might choose between different products.
Because I think that, again, Facebook is an interesting example because it can tell us about other tech cases as well, because obviously the FTC went from the lens of like personal social networking services, but what's the business model of Facebook and of a lot of other tech companies? It's advertising. These are ad-based business models. And so you can compare that to the DOJ's case where the DOJ is alleging a few different markets. One of the markets they're alleging is general search text advertising. And if you narrowly define it that way, then yep, Google has a monopoly. But then you ask yourself questions like, okay, does Google compete with Yelp? Does it compete with other vertical search providers? Because those are not general search services. And that's where I think a focus on like the producer end can lead you astray if you don't focus on consumers and their switching behavior and the jobs to be done that they want to achieve in their lives as they go about. And so if I want to find a great restaurant for dinner tonight, I can obviously Google that, or I can put it into Yelp. And so in that moment for that particular search, it's pretty clear to me that those are competitors. But at a general level, if I want to find, the answer to a broader question, maybe I need to go to Google and can't go to Yelp for that. And so again, it's context specific. There are certain situations where they are competitors or where they aren't. But at the end of the day, you can definitely draw narrow markets that show these companies to be monopolists, but it's highly sensitive to how you draw the market. And so just to bring it back to Facebook, these are both advertising companies. And if you say that they only compete in digital advertising markets, then Facebook and Google have a combined 60% market share. That's alarming to some people. But then if you remember that like there's also television advertising, radio advertising, print advertising, and you consider the entire, total advertising market, then all of a sudden it's less than 30% combined between the two companies and people are less concerned. And so it's really, really important how you define the market in that sense, and you focus on like the switching behavior that the purchaser is considering.
Another in the news example is the Epic cases against Apple and now Google. Epic, the maker of the very popular first-person shooter game Fortnite, which I am terrible at, but enjoy playing with my nephews. Epic has alleged in its initial complaint that the market in which they are concerned is the market for Apple iOS devices, which kind of narrows the market down pretty well. There's really only one company that shares that has that market. But interestingly, in their pleading, they have an alternative, right? And so a fallback position which says, well, maybe it's the the market for app stores across both Apple and Android devices, and that's a weaker position because they're also suing Google for monopolizing that market, right? So there are some legal games that are played with market definition that have to be sorted out that are often sorted out in litigation by experts, and it's very fact specific and it's complicated.